With most smokers on the health side, it's a question of I'll stop before it happens to me. I had reached the stage where I gave up even trying to stop. It was not so much that I enjoyed smoking. Sometime in their lives, most smokers have suffered from the illusion that they enjoy the odd cigarette, but I never suffered from that illusion. Smokers talk about the terrible withdrawal pangs, but when I looked back and tried to remember those awful pangs, they didn't exist for me. There was no physical pain. It was all in the mind. Anybody can not only stop smoking, but find it easy to stop. It's basically fear that keeps us smoking. The fear that life will never be quite as enjoyable without cigarettes, and the fear of feeling deprived. Most important of all, you will not go through life moping for cigarettes or feeling deprived. The only mystery will be why you did it for so long. Why do you have to have the cigarette and panic sets in if you don't? Instead of the normal method of stopping, whereby you start off with the feeling that you are climbing Mount Everest and spend the next few weeks craving a cigarette and envying other smokers, you start right away with a feeling of elation, as if you'd been cured of a terrible disease. You will look at smokers with pity as opposed to envy. We look at it and wonder why we are doing it. It's only when we've been deprived that the cigarette becomes precious. Over the years, by dropping little hints, I managed to persuade the ones that hadn't stopped to realize just how nice it is to be free. But I'd overlooked the dreadful fear that slavery to the weed instills in the smoker. You have absolutely nothing to lose and so much to gain. I can then enjoy life again, free of slavery to the weed. The real problem is day 2, day 10, or day 10,000, when in a weak moment, an inebriated moment, or even a strong moment, you have one cigarette. And because it is partly drug addiction, you then want another. And suddenly, you're a smoker again. Our rational minds say, "Stop doing it. You're a fool." But in fact, they make it harder. We smoke, for example, when we are nervous. First, they create a sense of sacrifice. We're always being forced to give up our little friend, or prop, or vice, or pleasure, whichever way the smoker sees it. The real question is, why do we want or need to do it? Most smokers find it necessary to rationalize why they smoke, but the reasons are all fallacies and illusions. Once the illusion that life will never be quite as enjoyable without the cigarette is removed, once you realize that not only is life just as enjoyable without it, but infinitely more so, once the feeling of being deprived or of missing out are eradicated, then we can go back to reconsider the health and money, and the dozens of other reasons for stopping smoking. These realizations will become positive additional aids to help you achieve what you really desire, to enjoy the whole of your life free from the slavery of the weed. It was like clawing your way out of a slippery pit. You feel you're near the top, you see the sunshine, and then find yourself sliding down again. Eventually, you light that cigarette. It tastes awful, and you try to work out why you have to do it. Do you want to stop smoking? In a way, it's a stupid question. All smokers, including members of Forest, which stands for the Freedom Organization for the Right to Enjoy Smoking Tobacco, would love to stop smoking. If you say to the most confirmed smoker, if you could go back to the time before you became hooked, with the knowledge you have now, would you have started smoking? No way, is the reply. All smokers feel that something evil has got possession of them. In the early days, it's a question of, I'm going to stop, not today, but tomorrow. Eventually we get to the stage where we think either that we haven't got the willpower or that there is something inherent in the cigarette that we must have in order to enjoy life. What does he get out of it? Absolutely nothing. Pleasure? Enjoyment? Relaxation? A prop? A boost? All illusions. Unless you consider the wearing of tight shoes to enjoy the removal of them as some sort of pleasure. Enjoyment has nothing to do with it. I enjoy lobster, but I never got to the stage where I had to have 20 lobsters hanging round my neck. With other things in life, we enjoy them whilst we're doing them, but we don't sit feeling deprived when we're not. If we had to suck a dummy in public, we would die of embarrassment. Many believe smoking relieves boredom. This is also a fallacy. Boredom is a frame of mind. There is nothing interesting about a cigarette. It is clearly a fallacy that habits are hard to break. The fact is that we make and break habits every day of our lives. The main reason is that smokers are convinced that they get some genuine pleasure and/or crutch from smoking, and believe that they're making a genuine sacrifice if they quit. The beautiful truth is that once you understand nicotine addiction and the true reasons why you smoke, you will stop doing it. Just like that. And within 3 weeks, the only mystery will be why you found it necessary to smoke as long as you have, and why you cannot persuade other smokers how nice it is to be a non-smoker. Smoking is the most subtle, sinister trap that man and nature have combined to devise. As soon as we stop, we have more stress, the fearful withdrawal pangs of nicotine. And the thing that we rely on to relieve stress, our old prop, the cigarette, we now must do without. After a few days of torture, we decide that we've picked the wrong time. We must wait for a period without stress, and as soon as that arrives, the reason for stopping vanishes. Of course, that period will never arrive, because in the first place, we think that our lives tend to become more and more stressful. Smokers' lives automatically become more stressful because tobacco does not relax you or relieve stress, as society tries to make you believe. Just the reverse. It actually causes you to become more nervous and stressed. The whole business of smoking is like wandering into a giant maze. As soon as we enter the maze, our minds become misted and clouded, and we spend the rest of our lives trying to escape. Many of us eventually do, only to find that we get trapped again at a later date. I spent 33 years trying to escape from that maze. Like all smokers, I couldn't understand it. However, due to a combination of unusual circumstances, none of which reflect any credit on me, I wanted to know why previously it had been so desperately difficult to stop, and yet, when I finally did, it was not only easy, but enjoyable. It's a complex and fascinating puzzle, and like the Rubik Cube, practically impossible to solve. However, like all complicated puzzles, if you know the solution, it is easy. I have the solution to stopping smoking easily. I will lead you out of the maze and ensure that you never wander into it again. There is no physical pain in the withdrawal from nicotine. It's merely an empty, restless feeling, the feeling of something missing. If it's prolonged, the smoker becomes nervous, insecure, agitated, lacking in confidence and irritable. It is like hunger for a poison, nicotine. In the early days, when we first start smoking, the withdrawal pangs and their relief are so slight that we're not even aware that they exist. We do not realize it, but that little nicotine monster is already inside our stomach, and every now and again we have to feed it. The only reason why anybody continues smoking, whether they be a casual or a heavy smoker, is to feed that little monster. All smokers know, at heart, that they are mugs and have been trapped by something evil. It's not really peace, but the ending of the aggravation. As soon as you extinguish that cigarette, the craving starts again, and so the chain goes on. It is a chain for life, unless you break it. Non-smokers don't suffer the empty feeling of needing a cigarette or start to panic when the supply runs out. We talk about smoking being relaxing or giving satisfaction. But how can you be satisfied unless you were dissatisfied in the first place? Why don't non-smokers suffer from this dissatisfied state? And why, after a meal, when non-smokers are completely relaxed, are smokers completely unrelaxed until they've satisfied that little nicotine monster? Forgive me if I dwell on this subject for a moment. The main reason that smokers find it difficult to quit is that they believe that they're giving up a genuine pleasure or crutch. It's absolutely essential to understand that you are giving up nothing whatsoever. The only reason any smoker lights a cigarette is to try to end the empty, insecure feeling that the previous cigarette created. As I said, the habit doesn't exist. The real reason why every smoker goes on smoking is because of that little monster inside his stomach. Every now and again, he has to feed it. The smoker himself will decide when he does that, and it tends to be on 4 types of occasion or a combination of them. They are boredom, concentration, 2 complete opposites, stress, relaxation, 2 complete opposites. The truth is that smoking neither relieves boredom and stress nor promotes concentration and relaxation. It is all just illusion. Many smokers believe they enjoy the taste and smell of the tobacco. It is an illusion. What we are actually doing when we learn to smoke is teaching our bodies to become immune to the bad smell and taste in order to get our fix. One, the reason why most of us carry on smoking is because although we know the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, we believe that there is something in the cigarette that we actually enjoy, or that it is some sort of prop. We feel that after we stop smoking, there will be a void, that certain situations in our life will never be quite the same. This is an illusion. The fact is, the cigarette gives nothing. It only takes away, and then partially restores to create the illusion. If you stop now, your body will recover within a matter of a few weeks, almost as if you had never been a smoker. Another group that tends to get hooked are people in monotonous jobs, because the other main reason for smoking is boredom. However, the idea that smoking relieves boredom is also an illusion, I'm afraid. Start looking behind these glossy packets at the filth and poison beneath. Do not be fooled by the cut-glass ashtrays or the gold lighter or the millions who have been conned. Start asking yourself, Why am I doing it? Do I really need to? No. Of course you don't. Why is it that an otherwise rational, intelligent human being becomes a complete imbecile about his own addiction? At the age of 40, I was a physical and mental cigarette junkie. I had reached the stage where I couldn't carry out the most mundane physical or mental act without first lighting up. With most smokers, the triggers are the normal stresses of life, like answering the telephone or socializing. I couldn't even change a television program or a light bulb without lighting up. I knew it was killing me. The ridiculous thing is that most smokers suffer the delusion at some time in their life that they enjoy a cigarette. I never suffered that delusion. I smoked because I thought it helped me to concentrate and because it helped my nerves. Now I am a non-smoker. The most difficult part is trying to believe that those days actually happened. It's like awakening from a nightmare, and that's about the size of it. Nicotine is a drug, and your senses are drugged. Your taste buds, your sense of smell. The worst aspect of smoking isn't the injury to your health or pocket. It's the warping of the mind. You search for any plausible excuse to go on smoking. Your subconscious mind knows that the little monster has to be fed, and you block everything else from your mind. As I have already stated, it is fear that keeps people smoking. The fear of that empty, insecure feeling that you get when you stop supplying the nicotine. The ex-smoker feels he is being deprived when a smoker lights up at a party or other social function. He feels safe. He can have just one. And before he knows it, he is hooked again. And what does he gain from these considerable sacrifices? Absolutely nothing, except the illusion of trying to get back to the state of peace, tranquility, and confidence that the non-smoker enjoys all the time.